Have you ever noticed how some women seem to have an invisible hold on a man's heart long after the relationship ends? No matter how much time passes or how far apart they are, he keeps coming back. It's not about manipulation, looks, or even chemistry. The real reason goes much deeper, buried in the hidden layers of the male psyche. And one of history's greatest psychologists, Carl Jung, uncovered exactly why this happens. Jung revealed that men don't just fall for a woman, they unconsciously project their deepest ideals onto her. It's called the anima, the feminine imprint that shapes what a man desires, craves, and ultimately can't forget. And when a woman understands this psychological force, she doesn't just attract a man, she becomes unforgettable. So if you've ever wanted to know why men return to certain women, even after intimacy or a breakup, the answer isn't about playing games. It's about something far more powerful. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to leave that kind of lasting mark. There's something almost mystical about the way a man's heart lingers on a particular woman, even when logic tells him to move on. Carl Jung called this phenomenon the anima, the unconscious, idealized image of the feminine that lives within every man's psyche. This isn't just about attraction or admiration, it's something far more profound. From childhood, a man's experiences, especially with key feminine figures like his mother, sisters, or first loves, shape this inner blueprint. It becomes the silent standard against which he measures all women, often without even realizing it. When he meets someone who resonates with this buried ideal, the pull is irresistible. She doesn't just capture his attention, she awakens something dormant within him. This is why some connections feel faded, as if they exist beyond time and circumstance. The woman who aligns with his anima becomes more than a partner. She becomes a mirror reflecting back the parts of himself he hasn't yet fully understood. And that kind of recognition is something he'll unconsciously seek to return to again and again. Yet while physical intimacy can create a temporary bond, it's emotional intimacy that leaves the indelible mark. Physical attraction fades when it's not anchored in something deeper, but emotional vulnerability has a way of etching itself into memory. Jung believed that true connection happens when two people meet not just on a surface level, but in the depths of their unconscious. When a woman creates a space where a man feels truly seen, where his fears, ambitions, and hidden contradictions are acknowledged without judgment, she becomes irreplaceable. This is why fleeting affairs rarely have staying power, while relationships with emotional depth can haunt a man long after they've ended. The body forgets, but the soul remembers. A woman who fosters this kind of intimacy isn't just loved, she becomes a part of him, woven into the fabric of his inner world. And that's a tie not easily broken. This leads to what psychologists call the unfinished business effect, the magnetic pull of unresolved emotional depth. Humans are wired to seek closure, and when a relationship ends without it, the psyche rebels. But there's a crucial distinction here. It's not drama or toxicity that draws a man back. In fact, chaos and manipulation often push him away for good. What lingers is the sense of something left unsaid, unfelt, or unexplored. Jung understood that the unconscious mind thrives on symbolism and mystery. When a woman embodies depth, when she carries an air of quiet self-possession, when her emotions are sincere but not demanding, she leaves room for his imagination to fill in the gaps. He may walk away, but if the emotional door is left slightly ajar, his curiosity will eventually lead him back. Because the truth is, men don't return to women who chase them. They return to women who, by their very presence, remind them of the parts of themselves they're not ready to leave behind. There exists a certain kind of woman who lingers in a man's mind long after she's left the room, not because she demands his attention, but because she effortlessly commands it. Jung referred to this magnetic quality as the eternal feminine, an archetype that transcends physical beauty or charm. It's the presence of depth, the sense that there is always more to discover beneath the surface. A woman who embraces mystery doesn't hide herself away. Rather, she reveals herself in layers, allowing a man to feel as though he's unraveling something sacred each time they connect. This isn't about playing hard to get, it's about being genuinely multifaceted. When a woman has a rich inner world, passions, intellect, dreams, she becomes like a story a man can't put down. He stays intrigued not because she withholds, but because she continually unfolds. And in that unfolding he finds not just her, but reflections of his own unexplored depths. Equally unforgettable is the woman who embodies emotional independence. Jung's concept of individuation, the process of becoming whole within oneself, explains why this is so compelling. A woman who isn't defined by her relationships, who doesn't cling or seek validation, radiates a quiet strength that's irresistible. It's not about aloofness, but about being so secure in her own worth that her presence feels like a choice rather than a need. This kind of self-assurance creates a paradox. The less she demands, the more he wants to give. Because at its core, emotional independence isn't rejection, it's an invitation to meet her where she stands, without the weight of expectation. A man may walk away from neediness, but he'll return to the woman who reminds him of his own potential for wholeness. Then there's authenticity, the rarest and most disarming quality of all. In a world where so many wear masks, a woman who embraces her true self, shadows and all, stands out like a flame in the dark. Jung's shadow work teaches us that true connection happens when we stop hiding our imperfections and instead integrate them. When a woman is unafraid to be emotionally genuine, vulnerable without being fragile, honest without being harsh, she creates a space where a man feels safe to do the same. This isn't about perfection, it's about presence. She doesn't manipulate or play games because she doesn't need to. Her authenticity becomes a mirror, showing him not just who she is, but who he could be if he dared to drop his own pretenses. And that kind of clarity is something he'll carry with him, whether he stays or goes. But perhaps the most powerful mark a woman can leave is the one she creates in the quiet moments after intimacy. This is where psychological anchors are formed, not through grand gestures, but through subtle, lingering warmth. When a woman can share closeness without clinging, when she can be fully present without pressing for promises, she imprints herself in his memory like a favorite melody. It's the way she laughs without self-consciousness, the way she listens without rushing to respond, the way she lets the moment be enough without demanding more. These are the things that linger in his senses long after the physical connection fades. Because what truly makes a woman unforgettable isn't just how she loves him, it's how she teaches him to love himself in her presence. And that's a lesson he'll keep coming back to, no matter how much time or distance stands between them. There is an art to stepping back that few truly master, a quiet retreat that speaks louder than any desperate plea for attention. Jung called this principle enantiodromia, the natural tendency of things to swing into their opposite. When a woman withdraws with grace after intimacy, she creates a sacred space where longing can grow. This isn't about playing games or feigning indifference, it's about honoring the natural rhythm of connection. Just as the tide must recede to return with force, emotional distance allows a man the room to miss what he once took for granted. A woman who understands this doesn't vanish in anger or cling in fear. She simply returns to the fullness of her own life, leaving the door ajar but never standing in the doorway begging him to walk through it. In that space of respectful absence, something unexpected happens. His imagination begins to work in her favor. He starts to wonder, to question, to feel the weight of her absence like a gentle but persistent tug at his subconscious. The irony is that by refusing to chase, she becomes the one worth chasing. Silent confidence is perhaps the most disarming power a woman can wield. There's a profound difference between declaring your worth and simply embodying it so completely that no announcement is necessary. This kind of confidence doesn't need to argue for its place at the table. It assumes its seat as its birthright. When a woman carries this energy, she creates a magnetic field around her that no man can ignore. He may walk away temporarily, but he'll find himself circling back, drawn by the quiet mystery of someone who doesn't need him to confirm what she already knows about herself. This isn't arrogance. It's the serene assurance of a woman who has met herself in her depths and found that she is enough. And in a world full of noise and insecurity, that kind of stillness speaks volumes. A man may forget words of praise or declarations of love, but he never forgets how it felt to be in the presence of someone who radiated this unshakable self-knowing. Growth is the ultimate aphrodisiac, not the performative kind displayed for attention, but the authentic evolution that comes from a life truly lived. Jung's principle of individuation teaches us that we are most attractive when we are actively becoming more fully ourselves. A woman committed to her own expansion, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, becomes like a living work of art that reveals new dimensions with each encounter. Men return to these women not out of nostalgia for who she was, but out of fascination with who she's becoming. There's an alchemy that happens when a woman makes her personal growth a priority. She stops being a static character in his story and instead becomes a force that inspires him to grow alongside her. This creates a dynamic where separation doesn't mean the end. It becomes an opportunity for both to evolve, making the reunion all the more compelling when paths cross again. The woman who is always unfolding becomes impossible to permanently walk away from because with each new layer she reveals, she offers him a new reason to stay. At the heart of all lasting attraction lies one non-negotiable truth: authenticity always outlives manipulation. The temporary high of mind games and calculated moves may create sparks, but only genuine emotional connection builds fires that keep burning through time. A woman who avoids manipulation isn't passive, she's powerful in her willingness to be real. She knows that fear-based tactics might win a battle but will always lose the war for a man's enduring devotion. When interactions are rooted in truth rather than control, something remarkable happens. The connection transcends the superficial and plants itself in the fertile ground of the unconscious. Jung understood that what we resist persists, and what we authentically embrace transforms us. The woman who engages without manipulation creates relationships where a man doesn't feel trapped or tricked, he feels chosen. And that distinction makes all the difference between a fling he'll forget and a bond he'll find himself returning to, time and again, as one returns to a place that feels like home. The most powerful connections between men and women often feel less like chance encounters and more like the awakening of something ancient and primal within the human psyche. This is the realm of the collective unconscious, Jung's concept of the inherited, universal psychic structures that shape our deepest desires and instincts. Within this hidden dimension exist archetypes, timeless, primordial images of the feminine that have guided human attraction since the dawn of consciousness. When a woman embodies aspects of these archetypes, the sensual lover, the regal queen, the wise sage, she doesn't just attract a man, she awakens something mythic within him. These aren't roles to be performed, but energies to be authentically expressed. The lover archetype isn't about seduction techniques, but about a woman who is fully alive in her body and emotions. The queen isn't about dominance, but about a woman who carries innate authority and self-respect. When these energies are genuine rather than affected, they create a magnetic pull that transcends personal preference. They speak directly to the ancient knowing in a man's bones, reminding him of what femininity has meant across cultures and centuries. This is why some attractions feel fated. They're not just about two individuals, but about the meeting of souls through archetypal recognition. Yet the most profound alchemy happens when projection transforms into integration. Initially, a man projects his unconscious ideal of the feminine, his anima, onto a woman. She becomes the screen for his soul's longing, carrying all his unfulfilled desires and unmet needs. But the woman who becomes truly unforgettable does something remarkable. She helps him integrate these projections rather than simply reflecting them back. When he sees in her not just a fantasy, but a mirror of his own potential for growth, the connection shifts from infatuation to transformation. A man may leave a woman who only ever reflected his projections, but he will return again and again to the woman who helped him see himself more clearly. This is the sacred function of the feminine, not to complete him, but to reveal to him his own wholeness. When a relationship serves this higher purpose, it becomes more than a romance. It becomes a vessel for mutual evolution. The collective unconscious doesn't just want us to find love, it wants us to find ourselves through love. And that's why these rare connections endure, defying time, distance, and logic, because they're not just personal but transpersonal, touching something eternal in both souls. The paradox is that the more a woman embodies these archetypal energies authentically, not as costumes to wear but as truths to live, the more she becomes a beacon in a man's psychological landscape. She stops being just another person in his life and becomes a symbol of something his soul recognizes as essential. This is why men sometimes return years later after other relationships have come and gone, because what they were seeking wasn't just companionship, but the particular quality of being that this one woman represented in their psychic journey. The collective unconscious works in mysterious ways, using our attractions as signposts toward our own becoming. When two people meet at this level, their connection becomes part of something much larger than themselves, a dance of archetypes that has been unfolding since the beginning of human consciousness, and will continue long after their individual stories have been told. The moments following intimacy hold a quiet power few women recognize. It's not in the intensity of connection, but in the graceful return to oneself that leaves the most lasting impression. The art lies in maintaining warmth without expectation, affection without attachment. This delicate balance creates space for genuine longing to grow. Rather than dissecting every word or gesture, the wise woman understands that true connection breathes in absence as much as presence. She doesn't abruptly withdraw in calculated silence, but naturally returns to the rhythm of her own life, her work, her passions, her friendships, allowing the experience to settle into memory without force. This isn't indifference, it's trust in the organic process of bonding. By focusing on her purpose rather than his response, she becomes like the moon, present in his sky, but following her own orbit. The paradox is that this very self-containment makes her more desirable, as it mirrors the psychological truth that what we cannot completely possess holds the greatest fascination. Modern relationships suffer from a peculiar malady, the compulsion to analyze every interaction until its magic evaporates. Jung's wisdom suggests a different path, allowing the unconscious minds to communicate in their own mysterious language. When a woman resists the urge to decode every text, reinterpret every silence, or assign meaning to every delay, she creates room for something more profound to emerge. The unconscious works like dreams, in symbols, feelings, and sudden realizations that can't be forced. By releasing the need for immediate understanding or reassurance, she taps into an ancient feminine wisdom that knows some truths can only be received in stillness. This doesn't mean ignoring red flags or suppressing intuition. It means trusting that what is meant to take root will do so naturally, without constant mental interference. The man who needs space to process isn't necessarily pulling away. He may be doing the necessary inner work to appreciate her more deeply. The woman who can wait without waiting, who lives fully while allowing this process, often finds herself remembered most vividly when his introspection is complete. At the heart of Jung's anima concept lies an invitation, not just to attract men, but to awaken the most vibrant, creative aspects of oneself. Cultivating anima energy isn't about performing femininity, but about nurturing the qualities that make a woman feel most alive. Her creativity that colors outside society's lines, her passion that burns with quiet intensity, her depth that refuses shallow waters. This energy has a magnetic quality because it's authentic rather than strategic. When a woman spends time with her own soul, through art, nature, journaling, or any practice that connects her to her inner world, she becomes like a well of fresh water in a thirsty world. Men may not understand why they're drawn to this quality, only that they feel more alive in its presence. The practical magic lies in daily choices. The book that challenges her mind, the hobby that makes time disappear, the boundaries that protect her emotional ecosystem. As she deepens her relationship with herself, she becomes the kind of woman who doesn't just attract lovers, but soul-level recognitions, the kind that endure beyond circumstances, because they speak to something timeless in human connection. The true alchemy occurs when these practices stop being techniques and become simply who she is, a woman engaged in the sacred work of self-becoming, who happens to leave an indelible mark on those fortunate enough to cross her path. This is never more evident than in how she handles the vulnerable aftermath of intimacy, not with strategic withdrawal or anxious clinging, but with the quiet assurance of someone who knows her worth isn't determined by any single encounter. She understands that the most powerful connections are grown in freedom, not captivity, and that sometimes the greatest act of faith is to live so fully that her absence is felt as keenly as her presence. In this space of mature femininity, where she demands nothing but offers much, she becomes unforgettable not for what she does, but for how she makes him feel about himself when they're together, and more importantly, when they're apart. What becomes clear through Jung's wisdom is that the women who linger in a man's heart, who draw him back long after the initial spark, are those who touch something far deeper than surface-level attraction. It isn't about manipulation, games, or even conventional beauty, but about the way she resonates with the hidden chambers of his psyche. When a woman embodies psychological depth, when she carries mystery without pretense, emotional independence without coldness, and authenticity without apology, she becomes more than a memory. She becomes an inner compass, pulling him toward growth, wholeness, and the parts of himself he has yet to fully understand. Physical chemistry may ignite the flame, but it's the richness of her presence that keeps it burning long after distance or time apart. So now, the question turns to you. Which of these principles will you weave into your own life? Will you focus on cultivating that magnetic inner depth? Or perhaps practice the art of graceful detachment, allowing space for genuine longing to grow? Maybe you'll dive deeper into your own individuation, trusting that your evolution alone makes you unforgettable. Whatever resonates most, let it be an invitation, not to change for anyone, but to become more fully yourself. The right connections will follow. Drop a comment below and share which insight struck you the hardest. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If this perspective on love and psychology resonated with you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more insights into Jungian wisdom and relationships. There's so much more to explore about how ancient psychology shapes modern love, and I'll be here to guide you through it all. Until next time, remember, the most powerful love isn't found in chasing or clinging, but in becoming a woman so rooted in her own truth that she becomes impossible to forget.